So if you are just joining us, the news is that our very own Jason Goff, who used to call the station many, many years ago as young Jason from Evanston, has accepted a job with the CBS sports radio station, the FM startup in Atlanta, Georgia. Let's go to Atlanta. And he is going to be the full-time evening co-host for The Game. And we couldn't be more happy about it. Couldn't have been more excited.
Proud.
Heard the news, and it's just extending the Boers and Bernstein tree.
Oh, that tree isn't worth a damn. You know, our tree is...
It's actually, when you think about it, I know we can we should be pretty proud of the tree. It's pretty good.
But the only
thing is, though, is that you two have nothing to do with the success of that tree.
Didn't say it. Well,
that's what I think.
7.5 years, 8 years later, I will never, ever go on a more adventurous and a more heartwarming ride than I've had with you guys. So I appreciate you. I truly do.
Well, you know, for sure. I say this about a few people in my life, but I think that I can safely say that you and Matt, I love you both. Believe me, Jay, the world wants you and will love you even more.
We're Boers and Bernstein.
Go to break.
Go to break, jerk. You have WSCR The Score.
We're back with more of Honoring an Original, a Terry Boers celebration of life on The Score.
That was amazing. Of all the moments he could go back and pick out, when Jason Goff was either coming or going or coming or going.
Man.
That's the one he picked. The day that it was announced that you, Jason Goff, were going to Atlanta to be a full-time talk show host, and they were so damn excited for you. Terry was a beautiful, encouraging soul, was he not?
Yeah, for sure. The next day I hosted with you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the next day I hosted. That was the last show that I did before I came back.
Yes.
And I think Doug and I had a Kevin White and Amari Cooper conversation in the hallway, and I think that was one of the last times that I had the chance to, hang out with Doug.
Hang out with Doug Buffon.
Yeah,
because you were there was a while at that point you were my first choice as fill-in on Mac and Speak. But you were also
Here we go.
You also Max. You were Mac's first choice.
For sure.
So you were all of our first choice.
So this is the thing. When I was a kid and I first got wind of this station through my uncle, shout out to Wayne Patton, shout out to everybody over there in the 14th District. My uncle driving around all the time, and he told me, hey, there's a sports station starting up. He knew my the attraction, like what radio did to me. And he knew that I always listened to like WLS, Don Wade and Roma in the morning, and Catherine Johns and Rush Limbaugh, and I listened to WBBM. Like my mom, when she first came to this country, just all she did was take in news and consume news. And I got a chance to, on a half day in 92, check it out for the first time. And I was hooked because I knew I wanted to do radio when I was like 9 or 10 years old. And I just didn't know what. Jamming Dave Michaels on GCI and every Doug Banks in the morning. So that attraction, that magnetism. When I heard Terry Boers, when I heard Dan McNeil, when I heard Mike North, when I heard Dan Jiggetts, I said to myself, this is it. There's nothing that's going to stop me. There's no that I'm going to take. There's no, the internships are a little bit different. I don't even know if they happen these days, but there was nothing that I was not willing to do. 2 buses, 2 trains, 3 times a week for free for 9 months.
Hell yeah.
And it was only because I heard Terry Boers laugh and talk the way he did. And I always knew that, like, there's certain figures that speak to you and you feel like they're talking to you. Terry wasn't as polished as some of the other radio voices that I had heard because he wasn't of it.
That was part of the charm.
He always made me feel like I could not only do this, but I could do it well because someone had joy from the outside and brought it to themselves. They brought themselves to the medium, right? And then I started calling.
I remember you started calling, but what you just said about what you heard is beautiful because people didn't realize necessarily what it was. Somebody said this earlier in a montage, and I clipped it. Terry had a writer's mind, an empathetic heart, and a deeply human soul.
For sure.
Man, do I love that, because you heard all of that coming through. Yeah, it was funny and everything, but you heard the humanity, and it was unpolished humanity. And then young Jason from Evanston started calling. I was a producer at times, punching up the button that said, Jason from Evanston is on the score.
The biggest thrill I ever got was, I didn't realize that hosts would be in the control room. So anytime I called and talked to guys like yourself. And one day, Terry was in the room while I was getting put on, right? So I'm 13 years old, 12 years old. And Terry grabs the phone and starts cursing at me. Because I had called a few times by that time, and what the hell are you doing? Why aren't you at school? What's going on with you?
You were his entertainment during the break.
And man, in that moment, I was like, I'm one of the guys. Like this thing for all these years has been a club for guys and girls who may not have been the coolest, may not have been the smartest, damn sure wasn't the most handsome or well-dressed people, right?
How dare you?
Right? I mean, you know what I mean? But it was always like a family. It was always like a cool vibe and an understanding of this is where we come to get our differences out. It's okay for you to feel that way. It's okay for me to feel this way, but this is where it was. And I didn't have that outlet anywhere else in my life. So for Terry to embrace me and take me in, I knew that I was a good man. Then I had the chance, like, you hear Modest Vuzelis talking about playing against LeBron last night, and his dad hanging up a poster of LeBron in his room, and Adam and Stacey put it up on the broadcast, and you see Modest playing the Xbox. Like, I got a chance to ball with one of the greatest to ever do this coast to coast, when sports radio was simply, we could throw it on the Sports Huddle on MAQ, or we could throw on 3 or 4 hours here and there. We could do this on this radio. So when sports radio became a thing.
What was the score? Was like the 6th one in the country, something like that?
I didn't know and I didn't care.
But there were so few out there, and we had one. Yeah. You got a chance eventually to ball with the
legend,
stud.
with the legend, and getting the chance to not only intern, but also work with him and next to him. Terry was the first person to ever let me really feel like, or make me believe that no matter what, just be yourself. If you fail doing you, then it's an honest day. If you succeed being somebody else, that at some point somebody's gonna catch up with the lie.
Hell will come to breakfast.
Yeah. Terry was a good man. Friday when I got the call, I had already been in a tough place and have been for a little while now, with losing my mom not too long ago, and just thinking of how he interacted with my mother, on these remotes, and when my mom would come out, and how he would interact with my sister, and how he treated me and everybody that I loved like family, and he didn't have to, right? We're in these atmospheres with each other where sometimes you have relationships, right? And in that cut where I leave, and that's my last show with Boers and Bernstein, he talked about the jobs are the jobs. You leave a job, you go and get new bread somewhere else, you go on and get signed a new contract somewhere, you do whatever you got to do to keep the lights on, or you go on to further your career. But it's always the people. And he said that in that cut. And I listen to that probably once a year. And I listened to it again, and the genuine kindness of that man. All the things that people heard was because Terry was as soft as a marshmallow. And Matt and I got a chance. I remember when Dan Zampillo told me, hey, you're going to be working the Boers and Bernstein show. I was like, okay, I don't know what the hell happened here. I thought it was like the time where they filled out the schedule, and I was hosting overnights at like 21, 22 years old, and then Eric Beverly came on after me, like, all right, somebody got high filling out the schedule again. Like, at some point they're gonna realize that this is not for me. And Matt and I went out. It was the first time I ever, kicked it during the day. Matt and I went out, and Terry called me that night, and he said, hey man, make this thing your own. Like, we've had so many producers before you. There's been a lot of people who have come to this station. He goes, make this thing your own. And I told him, are you sure? He said, yeah. So the drops and the music, like Terry understanding like what this truly is.
And now you got to bring your whole person to it, and giving you that freedom from the get-go.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah, he was, I can't, it sucks for me to even like think of it in past tense, but he was as important to not only this station but to this city's fabric and conversation as anybody who's done this. And this station has produced the greatest who have ever done this, right? Like Mike North and Dan Jiggets.
By the way, they're both coming up next hour.
Yeah.
Just so people know, North and Jiggets are on this show honoring Terry
Mike
next
North
hour.
and Dan Jiggets. I would race home to hear the Heavy Fuel Crew and the Monsters, and to understand and be around these men, and then to work as closely as I did. I worked, I produced for Dan, Jigs and Buffon. I produced a couple of times for North, but to have the relationship that I got a chance, and I was so blessed to have for 7 years before I went to Atlanta with Dan Bernstein, Matt Abaticola, and Terry Boers. It's nothing was the same for me after that. The business became the business. Life becomes life. You start creating a family. You go through whatever. But that moment in time for me as a young man, I got a chance to, on the side of a road in Bourbonnais, look Dan and Terry in the face and say, I'm going to start covering these Bulls games because I feel like I'm hitting a little bit of a glass ceiling at this place. And Derrick Rose was drafted. And, them looking at me, knowing that it was going to take away from the show some way, somehow. I was going to be doing 2 to 6 with them and then rushing over to the United Center to do games and then coming back here to do, opens. But Terry was the one who was like, yo, don't worry about the other stuff. Like, go do what you have to do. Terry is a special dude who touched so many lives, and there are very few people that you feel like you're honored to have known. And he had the nerve to say it in that clip about me. If Terry is listening, and I know he is, because like I mentioned, legends never die. It was an honor, an absolute honor to know that man. And he's the reason why I've never been afraid of being vulnerable on the air because of his bravery. He's the 9/11 show. I was working that day, and to see a guy who was seen and been through everything be touched in that way and affected in that way, and try to get through it, because that's all we're doing. People listen to the radio and they trying to get through their day. There's a lot of days where people are behind these mics and they just trying to get through it. And for him to show himself in a way that I respect as a man, and still do, and on top of it, he was the cool dude. Terry and I shared a love of nice things and fast cars, and he always helped me understand that it was okay to be whatever the hell it was you were. Mm-hmm. And I truly appreciate his mentorship, his leadership, his words. When I went down to Atlanta and life was hell, Terry would hit me. Yeah.
Jason Goff is who you're listening to. I'm so glad you're here, man. I'm so glad that people are getting a chance to hear how you felt about that man and all of that. And I agree so wholeheartedly about the willingness to be yourself and his encouraging. You know what you got me thinking about, though, just to make a sports point for a second? The best organizations have strong people at the top who hire strong people and tell them to be strong and support them. And then when they get opportunities, like covering Bulls games, say, absolutely. And they want that for you because it's going to make you better and that makes them better. It's like when we see these football coaches and their assistants might have opportunities and they're like, go, we want you to go. Yeah. He just genuinely wanted the best for you, and that made you better every single day while working with them.
I mean, because, people don't understand that if you don't get fired in this business, then you probably haven't been around long enough, or you're probably not saying anything that anybody gives a damn about.
I'm still waiting for a second name on the list for him. He didn't get fired. 25 years. Left on his own.
But I'm talking about the
paper.
You
got 2?
I'm talking about the paper. Uh-huh. His life as a columnist.
He quit that.
But these are the things. Jack in the Box. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things where Terry.
You're not saying anything anybody gives a crap.
Yeah, but this is the thing. Terry made it okay to feel however you're gonna feel. Just back it up, And also, don't waver. Don't waver. You know, if you feel some kind of way about something, be authentically you. And he was that. I mean, I remember days talking to Terry down the line when he was doing the show from home, and you know, we'd be 2 hours into the show. I'm screaming into the microphone so he can hear me, like, "Come on back, Terry!" You know, he had his headphones up super loud so he can hear him throughout the house or whatever. And I'm listening to him teach Ty how to curse on his knee, like, you know, listening to his grandbabies talking into the mic. Like you grow not only an affinity and an affection for a man and a family, and I think that's what's most that's what stands out to me the most as a broadcaster as he was, as great a writer as he was, as great a conversationalist as he was an even better husband, and he was an even better father, right? And, I mean, he blessed the family with Boers face, obviously. You know what I mean? Shout out to the Boers face, the undeniable Boers face, right? You see a Boers walking down the street these days, you know who the hell the patriarch was, right? But he showed me how not to run from things. He showed me, you know, I'm mostly non-confrontational, and Terry instilled a lot of things in me that he never knew that he did just by watching how he got down. You know, watching him question people who he took to task, and then have them sit right there in the tent in Bourbonnais, stare you down, or in a you know, a media room or in a press room.
He was unafraid to be accountable and just give it right to you.
And when he was wrong, he'd let you know in his own Terry way. And anybody who ever listened understood that as well. You know, Terry wasn't just some sports talker. Terry is and was a phenomenal dude. And I know a lot of people who, when I was on that show, you know, caught a lot of grief, right? I mean, you're the only brother on this show. It's a lot of things that get said that's off the wall sometimes. I take my guys to task, and they understood where I was coming from, and I understood where they were coming from.
They heard you, though. They listened to you.
It's a bunch of experiences clashing and smashing into each other for 4 or 5 hours a day.
You need that.
And it's the best time that I've ever had doing radio, listening to radio, being a part of radio. The segments were effortless. You know, they'd see me and Maddie come in and know, and when we were locked in, and then they'd also see if we spent a night out in Lyle, and we pulling up 35, 45 minutes before the show, and they'd look at us and be like, "We gonna make fun of those two all
now
day."
Hold on. So here's what I've heard, that, they didn't do meetings. Boers and Bernstein didn't do meetings. They just let it fly. How much is that? How much of that is because you guys were showing up late?
No. You know
Come
what?
on.
No, it wasn't that. It wasn't. No, it was shout out to B. Shout out to Brian. No, it wasn't that at all. You know, it's the thing that I run into now. The issues that I run into now in this business is. By
the way, Jason Goff does a tremendous podcast on The Ringer, The Full Go on Spotify.
Shout out to that.
With The Athletic.
No, Spotify and The Ringer for the pod, and The Athletic Show on Amazon Fire TV on Saturdays.
Thank you.
No, you're good. It wasn't that. It was the responsibility that all four of us carried to, no matter what, have something. You know, I've talked to people who've been in those Space Jam runs with Michael back in the day, like the Juwan Howards of the world, the Grant Hills of the world.
The one in L.A. before they made the movie.
Yeah. And they just all show up and they knew what it was, right? You showed up every single Monday through Friday. You knew what it was. We didn't have to have this grand hour-and-a-half meeting where people do the show before the show. I didn't have to say talk about this next. I look dudes in the eye and know, if you don't have anything, you better be funny as hell for the next 4.5 hours, right? And if my opens weren't on it, I would take it to heart, and next day I would come that much colder, right? If Maddie didn't want to hear these dudes talk, guess what? 7 guests are about to be booked, right? If Matt wanted to hear these dudes talk, or if Matt wanted to hold
these are too many trade secrets here, Jay.
No, but you know what? People need to understand what good can be, and what you get sold as, like, all right, this is a lot of stuff sounds the same because we all following the same formulas. Where it's like, all right, you get here 2 hours before the show and you look your host in the eye and you say, hey, did you see the game last night? And then y'all talk and do the show back there, and then nobody does what they're supposed to do on these airways. I had the opportunity because of Terry, because Dan's a meticulous dude, but he was on that vibe as well. Because of Terry, we were like, hey, no, we're not doing that. If you don't have what it takes, it's going to show. If you're not funny, it's going to show. Your jokes aren't going to land, then we're going to make fun of you. If you didn't watch the game, you know how many championship games I came in here and me and Matt were like, what the hell is going on? and then by the end of the show, we'd be like, these bastards did it again.
They fooled everybody.
They did it again. You know why? It wouldn't be possible unless you had a 6'6", Boers-faced individual making weird noises, and the only man who I know could sit with his legs crossed and both his feet touch the ground. Like, the man was a Martian, right? He was a different kind of animal, and I truly appreciate the experience, man, and. Yeah, there'll never be another like that, Cat, man. Never, ever, ever. Love you, Terry.
As Jason Goff, look at you guys, Chris Tannehill and Jay Zawoski over there. We're late. We got a break, but I want. But say hello
I got
to them.
the heavy fuel crew coming up here, man. I mean, not the heavy fuel
I'm still
crew.
cutting the open.
The
monsters.
The monsters coming up.
Dude, the monsters of the midday are next. Jason, much love to you, man.
Love, man. Appreciate you guys having me up here. And respect and continued blessings to everybody out there. And to Peach and the family. Love you. Always, and I'm so sorry for your loss. So sorry for our loss. And Terry, we will love you forever, my brother.